Okay, how should we do it?
I guess it's dealer's choice, really. I suppose the easiest way would be to use the diaper as a bowl of sorts.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the most unexpected, startling, and possibly even disturbing moments in Family Guy that left us speechless.
It was Stewie.
Number 20. Stewie beats up Brian.
Stewie, hey.
Hey there. So, it's been 24 hours. Got my money?
We all know that Stewie has a bit of a violent streak, to say the least, but that's usually reserved for weaponry and attempting to take over the world. We normally don't see him use brute strength to get his way, but that changes when he becomes a bookie for Brian, and it's time for his canine companion to pay up. The longer it takes Brian to settle his debt, the more cruel Stewie's attacks become towards him. We're fairly surprised Brian managed to survive these beatings without lasting damage. Stewie does a lot of shocking things throughout the show, but this has to be one of his most brutal and surprising moments to date.
Oh my God!
Number 19. Brian goes after Lois.
You must remember this, a kiss is still a kiss.
Throughout the series, we learn that some of Peter's friends have the hots for his wife. Quagmire has a crush on her, and despite his, shall we say, direct tendencies, another character has been even more forward with her. We're talking about Brian, and in this episode, he shoots a shot with her. During a trip to Martha's Vineyard, Peter leaves Lois to hang out with Brian throughout most of the trip where, not unexpectedly, Brian's feelings for her grow.
You know, half the time when you go to the market, I just assume you're leaving forever, and when you get back, I realize I have no idea how long you've been gone.
What is unexpected is how forceful he is with her. Considering their relationship and the fact that he's not normally like that, it's safe to say we were quite put off by his behavior.
Lois, I'd really like to talk about this.
No! Stop scratching the door!
Okay.
Number 18. Lois and Joyce's past.
You totally humiliated me!
Well, then I guess now we're even.
After Diane Simmons' downfall, Tom Tucker's co-anchor is replaced by Joyce Kinney, whom Lois ends up befriending. While their friendship seems fun and innocent at first, we are stunned to learn of Joyce's true intentions. We were even more shocked to learn that Lois and Joyce knew each other in high school, and that Lois pulled a brutal prank on Joyce, embarrassing her in front of the entire school.
It was a horrible thing to do, Lois.
Look, Joyce, that was a long time ago.
This is what motivates Joyce to learn as much about Lois as she can to use as ammo against her.
It just goes to show you never know what sort of person is living next door.
And the entire dynamic between the two is completely unexpected.
Boo-hoo. You don't like it? You can go talk to a reporter.
Number 17. Stewie gets revenge on Olivia and Victor.
Hey, who do we have here?
Oh my God, Victor?
Stewie's mean streak isn't limited to his own family members. As we see in this episode, when he reunites with Olivia, he unwillingly falls in love with her and opts to be mean to her in an attempt to get her to return the feelings, taking a page right out of Mr. Quagmire's playbook.
Hey, babe, what do you say? We going out Saturday night?
The events that transpire are reminiscent of Woody Allen flicks, and it seems like Stewie has met his person. They get married as the relationship turns south, and Stewie catches Olivia in their playhouse with her friend Victor.
I should be going.
No, how about you stay here and I leave and never come back again?
Stewie burns down the playhouse with his wife and her alleged lover still inside, and instead of feeling any regret, he has somewhat of a sexual awakening.
Idea for a farce. Cheating wife and pompous ass burned alive.
Number 16. Brian lets a family drown.
Somebody help me! I'm sinking!
Some of Family Guy's darkest and most shocking moments occurred during cutaways, and this scene involving Brian is one of the most grim. When Brian learns that he no longer has health coverage, he is understandably concerned considering he has a hernia. The origin of the hernia is the plot of this cutaway, in which we see Brian attempt to stop a woman's car from sinking into water.
Hurry! I can't hold it!
Okay, let me just unstrap my baby.
He seems heroic at first, until the woman reveals she has a baby she needs to save, and Brian lets go, presumably letting them both drown. We know the joke is that he doesn't want to be with a woman with a kid, but we did not see that bleak joke coming.
Oh, slipping, sorry.
Number 15, Brian's protein shake venture.
Brian? I think I know why it's so cheap. They're made of dog meat.
Characters on the show can be known to do some pretty crazy things to get extra cash. And this instance is perhaps the most jaw-dropping so far. When Stewie gets savvy in the world of stocks, he helps Brian make money to pay for car repairs. And Brian gets a taste for it. He wants to keep investing and finds a controversial company to sink money into. The company makes protein shakes from dogs. And you'd think that would discourage Brian from investing, right?
How can you condone the eating of other dogs?
Oh, come on, Stewie, it's their way.
Well, he doesn't quite learn his lesson until he almost becomes a shake himself. And we couldn't help but shake our heads at Brian's lack of morals when it comes to making money.
Well, lesson learned, Brian. Money doesn't buy happiness.
Number 14, shaving cream.
I'm a good person, Joe.
Sometimes good people do bad things, Lois.
Lois becomes unhinged in the later seasons of the show, and this might be the most desperate and crazy thing she's done to date. Lois frequently visits the same coffee shop, getting to know the baristas and trying to be a well-liked patron. She tries to become Customer of the Week, but weeks pass with other coffee shop goers winning the Mediocre at Best award.
This week's Customer of the Week is...
So Lois decides to become a hero by saving one of the baristas during an allergic reaction, which she stages. But that plan goes horribly awry.
Now I wait for her to get in her car and start to have a reaction. Then I'll swoop in and save her with this EpiPen.
Even more terribly, Lois kidnaps alleged witnesses to keep what happened under wraps. When she gets out of jail, it's clear she still hasn't learned her lesson. Oh, shaving cream indeed.
Oh, shaving cream!
Number 13, Cecil Pritchfield.
I do feel a bit better, but still lonely.
This episode involves a lot of shocking revelations about Stuart Gilligan Griffin. We learn that he's lonely, obsessed with the Broadway musical Hamilton, and has been faking his English accent in an attempt to not be like everyone else.
The accent is nothing more than an affectation. A coat of armor to get me through the day. Just an image I cultivated so I could feel special.
He reveals all of this in a moment of extreme vulnerability with therapist Dr. Pritchfield, but he regrets revealing that much about himself. Dr. Pritchfield's heart condition culminates in a heart attack during their session, and rather than helping him get his medication, Stewie lets his secrets die with Cecil. Stewie's evil streak may have lessened as the seasons have gone on, but this episode shows he hasn't changed deep down.
So, this is how you leave me.
Sorry.
Number 12, Brian sacrifices himself.
Hey, what's that? What's that, boy? What's that?
Surgical equipment?
We know that Peter and Brian share a special bond, and we learn just how close when Peter's in need of a kidney transplant. Upon discovering that Brian is a match for Peter, he volunteers to be the donor. The major catch is that because Brian's kidneys are small, he'll have to donate both of them, which, as Brian points out, is all he has.
After all, I'm a dog. I have another 8 years at best. I'm willing to give that up so you can have another 40.
He's still willing to make the sacrifice, even with Stewie trying his darndest to convince Brian otherwise, in one of the more tender, if not slightly gross moments shared between the two. Perhaps even more shocking is the ending of this episode, in which Dr. Hartman takes Brian's place, saving both Brian and Peter.
Well, chances are Peter never would have survived the surgery. I mean, dog kidneys? I'm not even sure dogs have kidneys.
Number 11, injuring Stewie and making things worse. When Stewie gets injured in this episode, we're astounded at the lengths his family would go to conceal his injury. During an argument between Chris and Meg, Stewie ends up gashing his head open after falling down the stairs. Peter helps them hide the injury from Lois instead of taking him to the hospital, even as he continues to get worse. Dad of the Year contender for sure.
I got one last plan, Meg.
We're Worst of all is when they want to turn the tables, so Lois thinks she hurt Stewie, having her accidentally run over him, and she still doesn't want to take responsibility. We're amazed Stewie survived this and that he didn't exact some kind of revenge on his cruel family members.
Hey, I just found out it's November. What the happened?
Number 10. Drastic measures on Mount Everest.
Come on, let's head back down. At least the hot pot's over.
I'm not so sure about that.
Lois tends to go a bit overboard when she feels she's been slighted, and that's how she ropes her family into climbing Mount Everest. They race to beat Ross, Pam, and Ben Fishman to the peak, and they think they've conquered it before them until they discover that the Fishmans have already been there for hours.
Well, look who finally got here.
Their luck runs out there, though, as the Griffins find Ben frozen on their way back down the mountain at the same time that they fear that they may starve to death.
Brian!
Look, if we don't eat something soon, we're all gonna pass out from exhaustion and freeze to death just like him.
They take desperate measures to feed themselves, and although they come clean to Ross and Pam about their son, we're pretty much in shock throughout this whole sequence of events.
You're a good man.
All right, you rest up. Get better. We ate your son. Bring it up!
Number 9. Time travel to the beginning.
Well, here we are.
That's odd. It's our house, but somehow it looks a little different.
There are plenty of surprising turns of events in this episode, as Brian and Stewie travel back to the pilot 10 years after the episode's original airing. We're surprised to see the contrast between what the characters originally looked like and how far their animations have come, as well as the difference in both Stewie and Brian's personalities and dispositions.
Oh, they're setting up cutaways.
Oh my god, is that what we did back then?
We also see that some of Peter's friends in the pilot never reappear, and that Meg's voice changes drastically, almost like she's an entirely different person.
Mom, my lips are too thin. Can I please get collagen injections?
Out of all of Stewie and Brian's time-traveling adventures, this one had the most striking twists and turns, and it's full of some of the most memorable moments on the show.
Hey, wait a minute, Stewie, I gotta take a leak. Will it screw up the timeline if my future pee goes in a past toilet?
No, as long as it goes in the toilet. One splash on a magazine in there and we're getting chased by dinosaurs.
Number 8. Stewie and Lois battle.
What are you doing with a gun?
Something I should have done a very long time ago.
Stewie was originally always plotting to kill his mother, but we're pretty sure that he's bluffing since he never seemed to go through with it. That is, until early in Season 6, when he finds his parents on their cruise and he shoots Lois, causing her to fall overboard. Peter nearly goes to jail for the crime until she turns up alive and exposes Stewie. He rises to become president of the world afterward, continuing his evil streak until Lois decides to put a stop to it. The mother and son duo battle, but Lois finds herself unable to kill Stewie. Peter, however, doesn't have a problem. Thankfully, it's all a simulation, and these shocking events didn't even actually happen.
How'd that go?
Not well, Brian. Not well.
Number 7. Quagmire and the Simpsons.
Wow, 3 times in a row. You're amazing, Glenn.
Oh, I just take a lot of pride in what I do.
Quagmire has done his fair share of surprising and disturbing things throughout the years, but this one has to take the cake. In a promotion for The Simpsons at the bottom of the screen, we see Marge get attacked by Quagmire. They run off screen, and when they return, Marge and Quagmire decide to go back to the Simpsons house for another go at it.
What do you say we go back to your place for round 2?
Sounds good to me.
While we don't see it, we hear Quagmire kill Homer after he catches them before killing the rest of the family.
Ay, caramba! Mom and Dad are dead!
It's a gag that takes the rivalry between the adult animated sitcoms to the next level, to the point where Fox even refused to air it. That's about as shocking as it gets. Number 6. Brian at the bank.
So you invented a time machine, but you can't get us out of a safe?
Yeah, that's science. I'm not Houdini.
One of the most polarizing and memorable episodes of the series is the one in which Brian and Stewie are locked in a bank vault. Between Stewie drunkenly getting his ear pierced and Brian having to clean out Stewie's diaper, there were plenty of moments that left us speechless.
It's like watching someone do algebra.
But the most shocking of all is when Stewie asks Brian why he keeps a gun in his safe deposit box. and Brian tells him that it's in case he chooses to end his life. It's one of the most mature and unexpected conversations between the two, solidifying them as best friends.
But why, Brian?
You wouldn't understand. You're just a kid.
Well, I could try.
Although we didn't see that particular discussion coming, we're happy Brian has Stewie in his life. Number 5. Meg speaks up.
What's your point, Meg?
My point is that with all the irresponsible, reckless, idiotic behavior in your past, that somehow you have the nerve, the arrogance to consistently and ruthlessly point out my shortcomings.
Meg is always the punching bag of the Griffin family, and in this episode, she finally takes matters into her own hands. When the family is storm-stayed at home, they pick on Meg like they always do until she ends up airing out some long-held resentments, and she does not hold back. She viciously attacks her mother's parenting and criminal past, Chris's treatment of her, and her father's recklessness.
You are completely selfish and totally irresponsible as a father.
As jarring as this debacle is, perhaps the most surprising part of all of this is that Meg feels regret for calling out her family and retreats. Realizing she'd rather be a scapegoat for their flawed personalities, she allows them to continue being themselves, and things go back to normal.
Oh, so this was all about you. It wasn't about us.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. You see, I thought it was weird that I was a bad dad.
Number 4. Brenda and Jeff.
Oh, God, I hope Glenn's okay. I'm so worried about him.
Shut up and limp! We're in a handicap spot, you
Quagmire has a seriously complex family dynamic, with complicated relationships with both of his parents. But it's his sister whose situation is the most unexpectedly dark. After Quagmire ends up in the hospital, his sister Brenda comes to visit him. Much to the dismay of Quagmire and his friends, Brenda also brings along her boyfriend, who is openly abusive towards her.
Well, Jeff, he is my brother.
Why do you always gotta remind me I didn't finish high school?
Their relationship is hard to watch, with Brenda sustaining visible injuries and constantly being yelled at by Jeff, yet she stays with him after learning that she's pregnant. Quagmire and his friends decide to take care of Jeff to help Brenda, and the entire episode is pretty unsettling. Number 3. Diane Simmons.
Well, it's a shame that you have to die, Lois, but look on the bright side. You'll be a story on the 6 o'clock news.
This whodunit-style episode is filled with surprising deaths, but possibly the most shocking part is who is committing the murders and why. After everyone at James Wood's mansion comes to the conclusion that Tom Tucker must be the murderer, all the beloved characters prepare to leave. As they do, Lois talks to Diane and realizes that she is the real killer, and her goal was to kill James Woods and frame Tom Tucker.
How could she have known you'd be anchoring alone? I mean, none of this happened until...
She was definitely not a prime suspect throughout this two-parter, and the fact that she almost kills Lois to keep her silence is jolting. We're just grateful Stewie was there to save the day in the end.
If anybody's gonna take that down, it's gonna be me.
Number 2. Christmas Time is Killing Us.
Ah, look at this. The tip of the earth, Brian. Okay, let's go see Santa Claus.
Even though Stewie is a genius well beyond his years, he still has some attributes that are exclusive to children. One of those is a belief in Santa, and in this episode, Stewie makes it his mission to go to the North Pole and kill him. Brian becomes Stewie's reluctant travel companion, and when they get to the North Pole, not only are they stunned to actually meet old St. Nick, but they find him on the brink of death.
Come on! What are you waiting for? Pull the trigger!
Well, there isn't a great deal of sport in that.
Because everyone has become too greedy in demanding presents from Santa, he, his elves, and his reindeer have taken a turn for the worst. We didn't expect Family Guy to take a shot at Santa Claus, but here we are.
You may think I look great, but I'm 28!
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Brian's Fate.
Okay, Brian, I'm just putting this out there, but I'm a baby, and only dicks don't let babies win.
Most of the episodes on the show involve scenarios that eventually get solved or, at the very least, don't last more than an episode. In Life of Brian, not only does one of the main characters die unexpectedly, it looks like he's gone for good.
You've given me a wonderful life. I love you all.
The Griffins move on and get another dog, and with Stewie's time machine out of commission, the death of Brian is cemented as the most shocking moment on the show. Even as Vinny grew on us as the new family dog, we couldn't be happier to see Stewie reunited with his best friend, eventually giving this darkly surprising moment a happy ending.
Money doesn't buy happiness. This does.
Life is a highway. I wanna ride it all night long.
Which Family Guy moment left your jaw on the floor? Let us know in the comments.
Now, before we begin, I want you to know the record is just past my watch.
Well, it takes 2 people to break a record.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.